This is madness! Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xerath Prevails. Malicos is going to be here in about 2.5 weeks, and he's going to be really strong. There are already test builds out there where people are testing him, and he's killing all the Galactic Legends, at least in GAC, and so we're going to talk about which omicrons he might want or might not want. We're going to talk about what abilities he's going to be able to use if he wants to go with Lord Vader, or if you want to use him with Cere and an UFU team. That means an unaligned Force user team. It's going to be madness. Real quick, folks, if you are my patron, you're awesome. Thank you so much for everything, guys. Thank you. And if you want to support the channel for free, all you've got to do is hit that thumbs up button, folks. It's a good time. Or subscribe, or comment, ding the bell. Do all the things, folks. Now, I did make a video about Conquest and how to unlock Malicos with a tiny account and with a no Galactic Legends, and I'll be doing that. I won't be getting him immediately, but if you guys want to see that video, I'll link it in the video description. It's a guide for smaller accounts. I know that a lot of you don't need it, probably, but it is available for those of you who don't know how to do it and you want to maximize your shards. I've actually been getting a little bit more than Crate 5 on it. It's going to take maybe a couple bonus months, but that being said, let's take a look. Oh my, this is just tragic. Now, Malicos cost. He is going to be a hefty little man. And as far as just gearing him, it's going to cost 500 Chirotech just for himself, and he's going to cost another 250 Carbanti, which Carbanti are pretty cheap these days, in my opinion. Now, he also has 3 Zetas, which I know right now the community's in this really weird place where a lot of people are saying things like, you don't need to worry about Zetas. I've never had to worry about Zetas in my life, and I have 3 million materials. And other people are saying, I can't do anything because I can't get Zetas on all the characters that really matter. And one way or another, he costs 3, so prepare yourselves. And he's also could cost up to 3 omicrons, depending on what you want to do. Now, let's talk about who does he want to go with? That's the real question in a lot of people's minds. Who does he want to go with? Is he gonna go with Cere? What's the best squad? Or should he go with Lord Vader? You could also run him with Supreme Leader Kylo, though I think that's not gonna be a good fix. He has turn meter manipulation in his kit, and Supreme Leader Kylo punishes that pretty dramatically. So let's look at each of his. We can't look at his entire kit. Would take me an hour or 2 to read to you, and I'm sure that most of you would really enjoy the heck out of that. But we're not gonna do it because I don't have time. Now, for his first couple specials, we're just looking at things with his abilities as they pertain to UFUs, unaligned Force users. And they could either be with Lord Vader or not. So, his special 1, he has something that if all allies are dark side or light side unaligned Force users, he gains quadruple the defense penetration. It doesn't say. It seems like quadrupled if all allies. You could just say 120% perhaps, but quadrupled is fun. That might be the only use of quadrupled that I know of in this game, in fact. And then a special 1 as well, if the ally in the leader slot is a dark side or light side. So it has to be, I mean, I guess you could in theory have Rey be your leader, but and I guess I should just point out, folks, the way he works, he's very similar to Scando in the sense that he gets one kind of effect that turns into like a bigger kind, like you take all those little effects and you edge of madness things and you turn them into a bigger thing that is going to then help you ramp your damage and be able to do all this stuff, and he turns it stacks into bigger things. So it's like cents turning into dollars, turning into houses or something. So, special 2, die whelp. The only thing that's contingent here about it is at the end of it, this is where the stacking comes in. This is actually part of his Omicron, his first Omicron. It's in a special. And then, alright, so for his unique one, I did just want to point out that, so here's another Omicron ability. So, regardless of where he is in... well, okay, there's a couple, it's ambiguous a little bit. Now, the ability starts here on the very left. It says, if all abilities were unaligned force users at the start of the battle, and then the whole ability after that is spelled out. In some ways, you could interpret it as the whole ability only works if it's an UFU. If all of them are UFUs. So that would mean Lord Vader would cancel this ability entirely. Or... potentially just the part that I've highlighted, the first square on the left. So I don't really know. I kind of think it's the second one, that it's the whole ability is not contingent on full UFU squad, but who knows? CG isn't really good at delineating that, and we'll have to find out. But while in Grand Arenas, though, enemies defeated by allies can't be revived. This effect persists if Malicos is defeated. Now, this is a little bit different. Like, he could go with a ton of teams, and if you just want to kill Night Sisters, maybe you take Malicos on the team, and then he can just die. Who cares about what happens to him? But as long as you kill those Night Sisters with other characters in the squad, it doesn't matter. It persists. But maybe you have to have all UFUs in the squad for that to happen. Who knows? And then the other one is the first time another dark side or light side unaligned force user ally would be reduced to 1% health. He essentially has a savior mechanic. So if he's and this is not restrained to being on a full UFU team, unless, like I said, the entire unique one, it falls under that purview. But if he can just be on any squad, he could be on a Lord Vader squad. Fennec could kick Maul in the nuts so many times that Maul wants to die, and Malicos can drag him from the precipice and save him. And let live Maul to get kicked in the robo nuts another day. It's kind of interesting. We've seen a few savior mechanics now, I guess. I don't think we've seen a dark side one like this. I guess Darth Talon has one, doesn't she? She's a little bit like that. So it's unique 2. So this one has a lot more things for unaligned force users. So at the start of the battle, he gains 25% offense for each other dark side or light side unaligned force user, which means he could be on like an Inquisitor's team and still gain 100% offense, which I guess it's cool enough. If the ally in the leader slot was dark side or light side, he ignores taunt. So he doesn't ignore taunt if he's with Lord Vader. While in Grand Arenas, this is another Omicron. At the start of the battle, Malicos gains a stack of Edge of Madness. Edge of Madness is the little currency, guys, the coins, until the end of the encounter. And so and then all these unaligned force users get stuff for it, because they're fancy, apparently. Whenever another unaligned force user uses a special ability, Malicos assists. Now, this is especially interesting because a few, which we're not going to talk about quite yet, but it'll come up. Just imagine, folks, all the special abilities that UFUs can use. It's pretty interesting. He assists. He's just going to be assisting a whole lot. Alright, so what can we use with Lord Vader? What's the benefits? What are the abilities? So I went through and looked, and obviously there are a few things that are just specific to him. It doesn't matter if they're UFU stuff or not. You guys can look through the kit. It's a monster kit. It's very interesting to read. We don't have time to dissect all of it today, frankly. But he has one little part from Unique 1. His Unique 2, he gets a lot of little things that can help boost him with Lord Vader. If there's other UFUs, like if it's a Lord Vader with Maul and Malicos, and then like Riva and Grand Inquisitor, just a super team. That seems a little bit crazy, but it could be good. And then Lord Vader also does quite a few things for UFUs. He essentially treats them like their empire, and in one case, the one that I highlighted here, Darkside unaligned Force user allies gain speed up and stealth for 2 turns, so that it makes Malicos fast, which he doesn't need to be fast, but he gets to be, I suppose. Now, if you want to take Cere as the lead, her whole kit is essentially one long UFU thing, and her kit is also a book. It's like the sequel to Malicos, or maybe Malicos is the sequel to her, considering she came out first, but she gets a whole lot of really cool stuff, and you guys can just, I'm not going to read it out loud, frankly. She isn't anything if she's not the leader of UFUs. This is why it's so weird that the Unlocking Zepho mission has her paired with Jedi Cal. There's only one little mention of her doing anything with Jedi, and it's not that amazing, as opposed to how she interacts with UFUs. There's also stuff with little Cal, baby Cal, and stuff. There's a lot of stuff regarding it, guys, and there's a lot of parts of Malicos' kit that frankly gets turned off. I mean, if you use Lord Vader with him, he's not going to be able to do a few things. Like you can't reset the cooldowns on Die Whelp Die, for instance, which is a 6 cooldown ability, so it takes a long time to do. And you can't ramp your damage over time using Die Whelp Die. I keep adding a die at the end there. Oops, but you can't. The extra die needs to die. We'll roll a die and decide when to kill it. I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't actually. If you don't like it, just deal. So, but he can't ramp, guys. He can't ramp if he doesn't have, or if he's with Lord Vader. Maybe you don't need to. Frankly, I don't know if he needs to. I don't really have a dog in this race. I guess I kind of would prefer him to go with Cere, but we'll talk about team comps in just a minute, folks. Now, also let's see. So he has the savior mechanic regardless, it seems like. But if all allies were unaligned Force users at the start, then he starts with a stack of Edge of Madness, and he's also able to stack their buffs as well. Like you could stack your allies' offense, which is pretty nuts. If you're with Cere, I sincerely hope that you consider taking him with her. But yeah, there's the big one, guys. Whenever any other unaligned Force user ally uses a special ability, Malicos assists. Now, let's go into the game here, and we'll talk just a little bit more about this, shall we? Let's go. Whoa, we're in the game. Malicos is a Force ghost, which is kind of fitting considering what happens to him in the game. Now, we haven't unlocked him yet. He's here in 20 days, give or take, something like that, and that's pretty exciting. He's got a cool loincloth as well. He needs to talk to Malik about that. But he's got so here's the Dark Strike rules. Now he doesn't care about the unaligned Force user stuff here, but he just gets Edge of Madness, and the attack can't be countered. Edge of Madness, he gets -2 defense per stack, but every time he does physical damage, he gets 2 stacks of this, max of 100. Remember, whenever he's countering, whenever he's hitting other characters, or whenever he's assisting other characters, which is whenever they do a special, he's going to be gaining 2 stacks of this as well. He gets it a lot. In fact, he gets a lot more Edge of Madness in, what is it? Is it unique? I believe that it's, let me see. Gosh, there's so much of this kit, guys. Yeah, so whenever an enemy with less than 100% turn meter gains bonus turn meter, which is a lot of teams, guys, tons of teams gain bonus turn meter, Malicos gains a stack of Edge of Madness. So if all 5 of their characters gain bonus turn meter, like the Troopers, they would gain bonus turn meter multiple times. He would gain at least 5 stacks of that Edge of Madness thing, which is the capped at 100, and then once the Edge of Madness, once you have at least 20 stacks of those, then you use the special Vile Thrash, and it means it turns into Madness Manifested. So he gets that, and then when he uses Die Whelp, so he can use the Madness Manifested to do extra damage and to long-term buff himself. And Die Whelp, I keep saying adding the die, hasn't died yet, but this is the one where he can stack damage. With his Omicron, deal additional true damage to all enemies, which who knows how much that's going to be, and inflict buff immunity and healing immunity on the target enemy. Remember, if he's with an Ufu, he can ignore taunt, so he can target whoever he wants as long as they're not in stealth, and it can't be resisted. If the ally in the leader slot is a dark side or light side unaligned force user, he gains critical damage and offense stacking until the end of the battle. And so he can, as long as you're cycling through with Vile Thresh, you're also taking lots of bonus turns and doing all sorts of stuff. He's just going to be all over the place. He's going to do a lot of really neat stuff. And so what teams are we going to be using with him? So the obvious one for the Ufu build, with Cere, you're going to want her Omicron, obviously. And you guys should really read her kit. It's remarkable. It's remarkable in its length, which is what she said. But her Datacron looks really, really strong with him. And honestly, everything she has, all unaligned force users gain tenacity up, all this stuff. Force barrier. Here's stuff for, oh, look at this, H active Jedi and bonus protection, blah, blah, blah. But then there's light side, dark side, unaligned force user, light side, dark side, Ufu. There's stuff about Ufus here, leadership, unique. It's all over the place, guys. She makes that team unkillable, and so does Cal, and it's crazy. So this is the obvious three. Those are the three obvious ones. Then we have a couple ETH Koths here for funsies, and then the easy build, the one that's okay. This doesn't cost much. You can use Fulcrum Ahsoka, because where else is she gonna go? Nowhere. They generate an enormous number of buffs, and then if you want to tank, you can take Crew, which works. Fulcrum doesn't necessarily do anything with Ufus, except she also is very linked to Cal Kestis if you want to add their Omicrons, which I have not done that, but that for Territory Wars, they are a pretty terrifying pair, and it's going to be a good team there as well. Now, Ufu, the best build though, guys, is probably, in my opinion, going to be Maul. Now remember, Terran Malicos assists with every time an unaligned force user uses a special ability. So think of Maul, and think of how Maul gets to stack his Anguish up to a max of 5, and then he gets to take 6 turns in a row with Malicos assisting every single time. It's a little bit nuts. Now, if you want to use this build, folks, you're going to, the one thing that I will say, you probably want all 3 of his Omicrons. The 2 uniques, I think, are fairly obvious. They're crazy strong. They're so strong. You guys, I mean, and the text goes on forever, but they are something that I think everyone will eventually, if they have Malicos and they want to do well at GAC, they're going to apply the uniques. The only difference, guys, is the fact that his special here in Grand Arenas for his special, if you're not going to use, if you're using him with Lord Vader, you don't need this Omicron, because you can see if the ally in the leader slot is a dark side or light side unaligned force user, which is not Lord Vader, then this is his stacking. If you don't have an Ufu as the lead, he's not going to stack. Otherwise, yeah, you don't really need this. You don't really truly need any of this. I mean, this is additional true damage and inflict all, but just when you're doing Die Whelp, which is every 6 turns, because you can't reset his cooldowns, because you aren't with an unaligned force user lead, which means he's not going to use this ability very much anyways, so why bother putting the Omicron on? Now, I don't want this to go on any other team. I want to do an Ufu build, guys. It seems like a lot of fun to me. But if you don't want to do that, the Lord Vader build, the one that people are talking about, this is just absurd to me. I'm sure it's going to be very strong, frankly, with all of this stuff. I mean, you're going to be wasting omicrons all over the place, but poor old Grand Inquisitor's territory war lead omicron that I have applied here. But we have this team looks entirely insane, and I can understand why people would want to concentrate force and use it, even if Malicos is not as strong on his own. I just like the idea of splitting two teams up. You can go kill two things or defend two places, something like that. That being said, I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on Malicos. Get ready for him. He is going to impact the GAC meta pretty considerably, and I bet he gets a really insane Datacron when he first comes out as well. Guys, thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Malicos is gonna prevail. Man, he's pure madness. Take care, folks.